Join us as I sit down with Pastor Alan Berthume and April Larsen to talk about Grace Kids. We will hear all about summer adventure and the other facets of children's ministry here at Grace Baptist. I'm your host, Aaron Miller, pastor of equipping at Grace Baptist Church in Santa Clarita, California. Welcome to Magnify.
Is this your first one?
This is my first one.
Oh,
yeah.
fun.
I was
great.
telling him that I listened to when I was going to bed last night. I was like, all right, I need to find one that is context-wise
Something similar that you would,
not the trucker, whatever it was.
The truckers. That's what they're called, the trucker.
The
The trucker buddies.
The truck buddies. So there was one with Martha and Kathleen Thompson. I hadn't listened to it before, so that was really good. See where Aaron went with them, and then, I think good to listen to and hear how he led them through a conversation, how they kind of
there he is.
Chimed in.
How we doing?
Good. I feel like the benefit, April, is that so much of the ministry is you. It's your personality, you know what I mean? And that you're going to be able to speak to that so well. It's very much modeled in a way that reflects who you are.
On one hand, I agree with that. The other, I feel like I'm just carrying the torch that has been carried before me in many ways.
Sure.
Because as far as ministry goes, I've always felt very inadequate in the sense that I don't have a Christian education.
Right.
It's basically just being raised in the church.
Yeah.
What is Christian education?
Well, Christian education in the sense that I went to public school my whole life. I went to public college.
Yeah.
I did not attend the Masters University.
Hey, neither did I. You're good.
Yeah.
You're totally good.
No, I know. But I just mean, I've always thought, should I go back? Should I do that?
In many ways, and I don't know how it necessarily applies itself. I'm a first-generation pastor. I was not raised in a context where I observed the type of ministry that I believe in now, with the biblical convictions that I have now. I did not actually observe growing up.
Yeah.
Me neither.
It took me going to seminary, Bible college and seminary, then I started learning. And that was like a baby giraffe just born, learning to walk. I was just kind of all over the place.
That's kind of how I feel.
But the benefit to that, there's a lens or there's a keen eye that I could have for people who would be in similar circumstances. Like that's most people don't have a theological education. And so when you're thinking through how will people hear this sermon or how will they receive this instruction, that's a helpful lens. You get into a bubble and you think everyone speaks the same language in that bubble. And I'm like, I was tossed around from Free Methodism to Episcopalian influences to...
Oh, wow.
But even theological education itself, it does not prepare for most of ministry.
Yeah,
just
right.
the day-to-day life of someone in ministry, and even April, what you're experiencing is something that's not taught in seminaries because they can't replicate it. They can't replicate the life-on-life, everyday mentality of, hey, these are real people with real lives that we're going to interact with and show the love of Christ to in this unique moment. And that's what you've had experience doing here that could not be replicated in a classroom. So in a way, the Lord himself has taught you, which is beneficial.
Yeah.
To kind of piggyback off of what Alan just said, the Bible college students or the seminary students that actually think that everything that they're doing in those institutions and those courses and classes maps onto ministry tells me one thing. They're currently not in ministry. Right? This is a massive rabbit trail, and that's not why we're here.
Let's hop down it.
Now, see how great this is? Because we're already recording the podcast, and you didn't even know it.
Look at
No,
that.
I figured they would.
She's like, I saw Cameron push a button.
You saw me wink at camera. And folks, thanks for streaming in. I'm sitting down with Alan Berthume, who's our family and adult ministries pastor, and April Larsen, who is our Grace Kids director and has been so for how many years, April?
Just for like a year and a half, I think.
Year and a half, okay. But in what capacity because you've been in children's ministry longer than a year and a half, in what capacity were you in children's ministry before you became the director?
Before I became the director, I was basically overseeing the Awana ministry on Wednesday nights.
Yes, but
then some. So.
Yeah, and then what year did you come to Grace?
So we came to Grace in 2001.
And you started working on staff
in 2011.
Yes, you and I came around the same time.
Yes,
that's right.
Yeah,
so great. But you've always been serving children in ministry.
Yeah, I don't remember serving as a youth person. It wasn't until college that Dave and I had started dating when we were, maybe like the start of our junior year of college. And our church that we met at merged with another church. And so when we went there, a big thing was worship and serve. And that's what we did. So Dave and I, while we were dating, taught first grade for a long time. And so, we were always serving in some capacity. And then when we came here, it was just very natural to, continue that. So we started serving on Sunday mornings.
You've served in the ministry through a lot of ebb and flow and change in leadership over those ministries, right? So you started serving under Debbie Broyles, is that correct?
Yes. Debbie was the director, yes.
Debbie Broyles, Daniel Luther.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then Debbie stepped into a different role and Daniel stepped into the director role.
And then we hired Landon Miller.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And then you had two Miller experiences back to back.
Yeah.
I stepped in for a season. Bless your heart. Sorry about that.
No.
And then finally, you were rescued with now Alan Berthium in the chair, which is fantastic.
Yes.
Well, we want to kind of dissect Grace Kids Ministry in general. I mean, get a little biographical information about you, which you've already done, which is helpful because you have a scope of experience that many people can identify with, especially if you've been at our church for more than just a few years. We have some big things coming up in Grace Kids.
Boy, howdy.
Don't we?
Yes.
Bum, bum, bum. Summer Adventure.
Summer Adventure.
The Beast. I refer to it as the calendar beast.
Yeah.
And every year, which last year was fitting because of the theme, dealt with a pirate ship and stuff like that. Yeah. But every year we always say it's all hands on deck.
It is, yeah.
In terms of like what drives what, we know that Grace Kids Ministry drives it thematically, its focus, its ministry, steam, it's all pointed towards those kids. But man, communications is in that, and all the pastors are serving various ways.
Every department, all involved.
Yeah, I mean, how many kids do you expect?
So I was just working on some numbers yesterday because we were trying to figure out how many crafts we needed to, order and so forth. And I think last year there was just over 1,000, like 1,050 or something. But I really, for some reason, it's in my gut, this year it's going to really pop up at least a couple hundred. No, I really think we're going to plan for 1,200.
Right.
And I think we're probably going to hit pretty close to that.
Well, let's when you say plan, let's talk about planning. How does that happen? Okay, so we typically on the calendar, it's the last week or so of June. Is that correct?
Yes.
Last week of June.
The last full week of June.
Last full week of June. So are you starting around Christmas time of that year?
Before that.
Before. Yeah. When do we start planning Summer Adventure?
Before the previous Summer Adventure is over.
Yeah.
Not officially, but but
there's not much on paper at that point, but we are having discussions.
Yes.
I mean, I remember they were doing one of the play practices last summer, just before one of the big sessions, and we were sitting down talking about, okay, what are we doing next year? Let's start talking about it now, because in a few months' time from June, we do sit down and have the first creative discussion about what's it going to look like. It's a big whiteboard, and everything goes. Everything you write, every idea everyone has down on the whiteboard.
Who's in the room?
There's a lot of people in that room.
Like Ryan Fogelsong, because he's a part of leading in that
the music
the
aspect.
assembly.
Yeah.
David Fogelsong, the tech team.
Yep.
What is David doing? I know we all know what Ryan does. What is David doing?
Boy,
in that room?
what isn't David doing?
I know,
really?
Right.
Yeah. So
for our listeners, though,
David is he's designing a lot of the visual and the set design, everything that from the logo itself and what that world is going to look like so that we can build set pieces off of it and all that stuff. He oversees so much of that creative aspect. And even he is the one really driving that first creative meeting.
Ideation meeting.
The ideation meeting, yes.
Which means there's no nose.
There's no nose.
Blue sky, whatever you throw up there
You don't bring an umbrella to a brainstorm. Yep, you just, it's all everything on the whiteboard. And it's really cool to see what comes from it. I mean, there are some really wild ideas that you don't know other people have in their head until it goes on the whiteboard and you go, wow. Scary.
Yeah.
Ryan, really? Wow. Okay. So, no.
The alcove of mystery that is his mind. And that's just dealing with the theme. Is that correct?
Yeah.
The decor theme. So the biblical theme has already been established because several years ago, Martha Harding wrote 4 years of curriculum, and we've just been recycling that every year. However, I feel like the last cycle, if you want to call it that, we have added different components. So more of a missional component so that the kids aren't just hearing, about the missionary or our global partner when we're having the competition of who can bring the most money between the boys and girls. They're hearing it in their classrooms. There's discussion questions about how they could be praying for them, or even teaching them about the global partner outside of that assembly time.
And speaking about missions, we actually have Wise Guy here in the room. Say hello, Wise Guy. And there he did. He waved to everybody. So that was it. That was it.
Yeah,
you can trust us. He's actually really here. But continue, April. Yeah.
But Wise Guy is part of even our assembly time that we do at Summer Adventure. So we do bring in Jared and we bring in Wise Guy.
Yes.
That's why it is part of that all hands on deck, where every department is jumping in at Summer Adventure.
If I'm honest, I think I'm the one pastor that is trying to figure out what I do.
We'll find something for you.
No, I know you will. I know you will. But Jared's like, obviously I'm missions. Ryan is like, obviously I'm music. David is like, I'm obviously everything. Alan is like, I am definitely the guy in charge. And I'm walking around going like, I need a part. And usually it's throwing, T-shirts out on stage or, making sure no kids fly off the balcony or whatever. However I can be of assistance. But that really is it. You just have kind of pastors and staff people playing zone.
Yeah, but you jump on the teaching team as well. We do rotate, even with all of our teachers who are teaching the various age groups during Summer Adventure, the lessons that are planned. So
missions has always kind of walked hand in hand with Summer Adventure, at least as long as I've been here, right?
Yes, definitely.
It's always been a part of that.
The one thing that has changed, which has just been really, really great, is that we're incorporating it across the board in the ministry. So the kids are hearing about missions or our partners on Wednesday nights at Awana. It's the same partner. We kind of adopted that a few years ago, where whoever our Summer Adventure partner is will be our partner in Grace Kids for the whole year.
So not just locked in that 1 week.
Exactly.
Yeah, they get a rehearsal of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's fun. They get to see them on Sunday morning in base camp, or once a month, we'll highlight them in some capacity. And
roughly how many volunteers does it take to pull this off?
Hundreds.
Literally hundreds.
Over 300 last year.
Definitely.
And we're expecting probably
I'd say 350.
More. Yeah.
Do you ever have a hard time getting those volunteers?
Nah. We always have plenty of people. Just kidding.
Huge wait list. Not.
What was really cool last year was we really didn't have enough people. And we don't really know if we have enough people because we just let people register. Mm-hmm. And as they're registering, we're praying that God's going to provide the number of people that we need. Volunteers. Specifically table leaders, people to lead the small groups, because we typically have plenty of people to lead the crafts and the rec and work in the kitchen. Yeah. But it's the people that are leading the small groups that we usually are like, because we really want our table groups to not exceed more than 6 kids, ideally.
Yeah, sure.
If it's any more than that, they physically can't fit around the table, and it's just...
It loses the sense of intentionality.
Exactly.
That's there. Yes. And we experienced that last year. Was our kids' first summer adventure, and little Millie really clinged to her table leader. That we didn't know this young lady, but she was willing to serve in kindergarten, and my little girl was part of a fun little group of kids that she looked up to her and was weekly looking forward to, Dad, I want to go back and see her. And then at the end, when they send a personalized card in the mail to Millie, it was like Santa had written to her. It was just wonderful that the impact that our leaders do have around those tables to model Christ for our kids.
So interesting. Our volunteers, they do a follow-up.
They do.
And the follow-up is in the form of something like you described, like a card.
It's like a thank you for coming card.
It's really sweet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What other ways do we try to incorporate Summer Adventure into the rest of the year besides the mission focus? Is there another way in which we map on?
Definitely the music.
The music. There we go. Yep.
Mm-hmm. We recently have incorporated what we call base camp into our Sunday morning ministry. So 1st through 6th graders, first service, 1st through 4th graders, second service, go to their individual classrooms for the first 5 minutes after the service starts, and then they go into a big room that we call base camp. And so when they are together, they sing a couple songs every Sunday, and there's a team of people that Ryan has put together that take turns coming in to lead the kids in song. And some of the times it's songs that are being sung in the main worship service, and some of the times it's songs that they learned at Summer Adventure. So they get to hear them all year long.
And they still know the hand movements too.
Hand motions.
My kid still does it. So.
Right. One thing I love that we do in our corporate gathering leading up to Summer Adventure, maybe the week before, maybe we do this the week after as well, is as a congregation, we will sing some of those songs.
Yeah.
Including the hand motions.
Including the hand motions, man.
Which I discovered.
Yeah,
I discovered. I think I had this nailed down when I was a kid, but something happened in adulthood, maybe early adulthood. I can't sing and move at the same time.
It's tough.
Like there's something going on in the brain that's just not communicating left and right. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. It's very embarrassing. So I look like a grump because I just kind of fold my hands, and I'm like, no, I'm not protesting. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, you're just clapping off beat in the corner. We're like, what's wrong with Aaron?
Or if I clap on beat, I have to kind of look at the person next to me. Usually it's my wife.
That's cringy.
And I'm like, okay, do what they do. Do what they do. And it's pretty.
And Ryan's just shaking his head from the stage.
Very disappointing.
What are we doing here?
Mm-hmm. He's like, I'm not upset. I am disappointed. You're a grown man.
Yeah.
And you should know how to lead.
You can do this
theologically and all. But anyway, we'll move beyond this, but just to kind of cover this, if anyone's listening and they're like, you know what, I think I'd like to volunteer, what would you have them do?
So you can go to our website now and sign up to volunteer. And there's different options that you can choose to serve in.
Okay, great.
But I would probably recommend being a table leader. I think a lot of people tend to back away from that because they think that it's, too much for them or they're too old to follow the kids around or something like that. But it's really not. It's not like that. It's a really great time.
Now, there are some steps, just so that people are aware. There's some steps that they've not been serving in children's ministry this year.
Correct.
Right? Yeah. There are some steps in that application process, right? It's not just... I'm interested. I filled out the form online.
We're certainly looking for someone more than just a pulse. We're looking for people who are not only modeling Christ, but we do our good faith background checks, the fingerprinting and things like that, just to make sure we're in compliance with state code, but also that we do care about who these individuals are going to be standing before our kids modeling Christ.
And just because we get desperate for volunteers doesn't mean we're just throwing anybody.
That's right.
We do screen our people.
Right.
Yeah, and we want to know they're a part of our body and regularly attending and so forth.
Can I ask more about Base Camp for a second?
Yeah,
absolutely.
So during that time, there's singing of songs that are they tied to the scope and sequence of what they're learning in the classroom? What's driving the theme of what they sing?
So Ryan really selects those songs. And we do give him an outline of what the kids are learning, but sometimes it's wanting them to learn songs that we're singing in the main worship service. Mm-hmm. But more often than not, we're just praising Jesus, and they're always learning about Jesus. So it doesn't, thematically have to exactly line up by any means. Yeah. So
it often does, though.
It does.
Where the music does match a lot with what we're teaching on top of what we're singing in the main services. So I'll get in the car on a Sunday afternoon and just innately be humming a tune that we were singing, and Silas starts singing the words to it. And I'm going, that's great. There's not this awkward transition between going to main service or what they call big church, right? It's like, oh, this is familiar to me. I'm used to having a communal time with other people singing the praises of God.
And that's very intentional.
Very intentional. Yeah. And Base Camp has really proven to be such a blessing for our kids in that.
The idea kind of grew out of 2020, right? Base Camp?
The idea grew out of Landon Miller.
Is that right?
That started with Landon.
But we didn't implement it.
We did not.
We did not implement it.
No. And so then when Joe came on board, one time we happened to be having our budget meeting, our department budget meeting with him. And he always asks, what are some of your dreams and that sort of thing? And I was like, and I mentioned to him that we would love to have a large group gathering room for kids. And on a Sunday morning, every space is taken.
Well, now that you say that, I do remember Landon Miller walking around upstairs. Maybe he had a hard hat on. I don't know. But he was looking like, okay, we'll knock down this wall and that wall.
Yeah.
And Wilkie's like, that's infrastructure. It's going to tear the building down.
Yeah. But Joe, when we told him about that, he's like, all right, let's take a walk. And in that moment, we went walking over to the B building.
That's really become a nice cultural piece for our Grace Kids ministry.
So much so. I can't imagine it without it now.
Yeah.
It just seems so obvious. Like, why wouldn't we gather all the kids together to sing the praises of God and to learn more of Christ before we send them to the classrooms? Hey everybody, this is Pastor Allen, and I'm excited to invite you to Summer Adventure, taking place on June 24th through the 28th, and that's going to be for all kids entering kindergarten through 6th grade. Join us as we go on a board game adventure to discover that Jesus is Lord. Board games bring people together, and that's what we want to do this year by building community through music, drama, crafts, small groups, and so much more. This is a really intentional way to neighbor and to invite families to learn more about who God is. For more information and to register your children, visit gracebaptist.org/summer adventure. We hope to see you there.
Alan, can I ask you just philosophically,
Sure, man.
Can you kind of flesh out, like, when would you, and I know there's more than one way to answer this, so I'm setting it up. When would you recommend parents try to incorporate their children into our main corporate services? At what age?
Yeah, I think there's certainly a different discussion for every family, and they're going to make the best decision for themselves. Because we don't have a policy that says you must have your kid with you at the age of 5 or whatever. But we do have it programmatically so that our 5th and 6th graders are only in the first hour. There's only a program for them first hour. And that second hour, the intention is that they would be with their parents. And that's the model that we see in junior high as well as in high school. That first hour, there is a special time for that group to congregate and to worship together. Yeah. But that second hour, our intention is that the family be together.
Is there something unique about that stage of life, that age range, 5th and 6th?
Yeah, absolutely. There was so much so that a year or two back, we had a separate 5th and 6th ministry kind of isolated to itself, where it was meant to be a transition from elementary school into that junior high youth group kind of mentality. And we've even seen, since we've kind of brought them back into the umbrella of kids ministries, we've seen an opportunity to elevate 5th and 6th to the point where they can be the example setters for all of the younger grades. So that they're looking to 5th and 6th to, why don't you lead us in prayer this morning in base camp? Or why don't you come up and sing with the musicians who are here? So that becomes normative for them by the time they go to junior high, where they're already becoming student leaders.
So you found like kind of a both and. It's still distinguished, but still contained within the Grace Kids ministry.
Correct.
Yeah. Very good. You're dealing with lots of parents on a regular basis. Yes, what are some of the issues that tend to surface the most when it comes to parenting?
You want to go first?
Wow.
There's a lot. I'll tell you, one of the most recent for me has been, we often get pastoral recommendations for people who are looking to put their kids in Christian schools. And there have tended to be more recently. And if I don't know the family in particular who are seeking the recommendation, I will ask them to come in and meet with me so we can discuss and figure out the family. And I have had a number recently who have just expressed a desire for their kids to have a Christian education that is inclusive of character and character building, morality, ethics, those issues that it used to be just the 3 R's their kids were getting in public school, but now they feel there's a sense of something more that is ethic building, it's moral building. And so they want to see their kids in a place where Christ is the center of that. And we're just navigating discussions, right, as a church family on how to support these parents as they're making decisions about their children's education. And I just want to say up front, there is not the one blessed method of schooling for, that God ordains, that it's what's right for every family. So we have families who are glorifying God as they send their kids to public school. We have families who are glorifying the Lord as they send them to Christian school, and those families who do homeschooling as well to the glory of God. So in all of that, our emphasis is to be a church family that supports them as they do that and kind of give them some guidance and direction.
Do you ever have unbelievers pursue you because they want their kids in those environments, even though they are not, quote unquote, Christian believers? I say quote unquote because maybe in their understanding, they have proximity to these things, and so they are. But in our understanding of spiritual reality, we don't see the fruits of that. We don't see the life of Christ being...
Sure. I think April could even speak to the idea how summer adventure becomes an outward-facing, community-focused opportunity for people to send their kids. And the feedback we get from that secular community is always positive.
Last year we had the opportunity to do a survey, and it was really, really great. People are just so thankful, and I don't even know if they really know what it is that we're doing with their kids per se for that week other than
childcare.
Other than keeping them safe and happy.
Feed them snacks. And
because they're just hearing maybe it's one of our families that invited them to come, but they're like, oh, well, if it's good for them and that's a good kid or a good family, then I'll send my kid. And they really don't know. And I think there's been a lot of incredible opportunities where families were impacted by that. Yes. I was sharing with Alan, like just a few weeks ago or months, maybe, I don't know, time is going by really fast. Someone showed up on Sunday morning. It was a mom and her daughter, and they were new, so I helped them check in and get into our system and so forth. And I said, well, how'd you hear about us? And she says, oh, well, my daughter came to Summer Adventure. But this was it was after Christmas. So it was, and she's like, my daughter came to Summer Adventure, and she just said she wanted to come today. And and I was kind of like, that's wonderful, you know.
Yeah,
but again, it was one of those things. Like, I think that's probably a good example of someone who probably had their kid come to Summer Adventure because she heard it was fun and a great thing. It's at a church. How bad could it be, or something? I don't know. And then all this time has gone by, and her daughter's still remembering it. And
I mean, a good children's ministry is a parent ministry,
absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
And so you're finding those bridges and those moments. I mean, Alan, right before you came, I met with a couple that they just admitted to me from the get-go, we don't go to your church. We're not necessarily Christians. They had a Catholic background, but they really wanted their kids in one of the local Christian schools here.
Wow.
And, for lots of reasons that kind of pertain to what was going on in the district. So I said, you know what? Why don't you sit down with me? And so we started talking. And I called that one particular Christian school that they were looking at, talked to the principal, gave them the whole history, and I said, this is an opportunity. I know you all require kind of a church recommendation. They are seeking something beyond what is being offered in this town and in their Catholic experience. It's an opportunity. Sure enough, these people started coming to our church, later came to Christ because some mutual friends that we have invited them to Summer Adventure. They began to just ask questions. We were able to then baptize them, and now they're serving every Wednesday night. And it's like, when you start seeing the connections from neighborhood community to an event like Summer Adventure to the baptismal pool and then service, you're like, oh, it's rare you get to see all those connections with one person or a family, but we got to see that.
But that is a very common theme that I have seen in my time of serving in the church or being a part of ministry, that parents often think that this is something good for their kids, not realizing it's something good for themselves.
Sure.
But then hopefully, I think a lot of them do realize that.
Yeah.
Isn't it unbelievable that unbelievers like it when people care for their kids?
Yeah.
Unbelievers want to be good parents too, you know.
Yeah.
Well, we're modeling an outward-facing, evangelistic opportunity every single Sunday morning with the kids.
Yeah.
And I always say this to people when they seek volunteering in Grace Kids. I say it's the largest outreach field we have as a church.
Absolutely.
Because every single Sunday, you have a group of people who don't yet have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, perhaps, but they come every single week to hear more of him. And they want to learn what happens next, and they want to hear more of the good news. And every single week, if you're a volunteer in kids ministry, you get an opportunity to fulfill the Great Commission.
Okay, Pastor Allen, question, scenario. A second grader comes to Summer Adventure.
Yeah.
Hears the gospel, responds to the gospel, and talks to his or her parents. A few weeks after that, they sit down with you, and they're like, we want our second grader to get baptized.
Right.
What do we do with that?
Yeah, well, it's not, well, it's great, here's water, what forbids you? I tell you, it's a little bit deeper than that, because the process that Jesus gave us in Matthew 28 is to not only baptize people, but to teach them to obey all that I have commanded them. And there's a level of maturity we're looking for in that young person to see genuineness of faith rather than just a momentary conversion or an excitement over the gospel. Because the good news is good. It is good news, and people do rejoice. But Mark 4 tells us that even those who for a short time seem to respond very positively to the gospel could very well be false fruit of that and have fallen away. And so the goal is to see maturity, growth in that. And so we take very serious the idea of discipleship, even with our student ministry or our kids' ministries. How are we making sure that that seed that's been planted there, how is that growing in the life of an individual, even if they are a kid?
So just practically, do you just tell them, let's wait?
Yeah, it's a conversation of, hey, why don't you keep coming and let's speak together. Let's spend more time in the Word together and see that germinate, see that grow.
And I think it's really wise because for a kindergartner or a first or second grader, summer adventure is a blast.
Oh man, yeah.
And their processing mind, they might be thinking, I want to be part of this.
Well, and we don't want to baptize people into summer adventure.
Right.
We want to baptize them into the church, in Christ,
Which is why we don't want to baptize high school and junior high students into summer camp.
Right, exactly right.
Yeah. Have you had those conversations?
I made that mistake as a young youth pastor 20 years ago, where I took my first group of kids to Hume Lake, and we did the walk up to the slides, up to the water up there.
That's how you baptized them?
Yeah, no, not in the slide. No, it wasn't. In the name of the Lord. No, there was a pool, sort of a wading pool on the way up there, and we were naturally having discussions about baptism, and
it seems so New Testament.
It seems so New Testament where I thought, well, what prevents you? We're here. Let's just do it now. And when I got back, there were a number of parents who were upset. Said, I was hoping my kid wanted to be baptized, but I wanted to be there. Of course, there's meant to be a celebration of the church together, and here I am doing it in private in the in the middle of the woods of Hume Lake. And so there's wisdom to having the unity of the body of Christ together, who affirm that individual's genuine faith, and then
and when you look at the early church and how early Christian believers understood baptism to work, it always was within the context of the church.
Right.
Right.
Amen.
Which is why we don't just rush little children to those external commitments, right? Because we're looking for fruit. We don't want to make it impossible, though, and we want to affirm that what they desire is a good thing.
Yeah.
We want to continue to encourage that. Let me ask you another question. What about, partaking of the Lord's Supper? Same sort of situation. You get a second grader, and parents come to you and they say, hey, do you think it's proper and good for our second grader to partake of the Lord's Supper? What's that conversation like?
Paul makes it very clear in 1 Corinthians 11 that there is a wrong way to take communion, to take the Lord's Supper. And we need to stop and consider the body and the blood of the Lord that was given for our salvation. And so it's something we do not put forward as a kids ministry, that we offer communion to second graders or to any of our Grace Kids classrooms.
So what if they're saying, oh, Pastor Allen, we understand that, but what about in the main corporate service? If they join us for a Sunday morning and it's a communion Sunday, what would you recommend?
Yeah, again, we don't have police as well, right? We don't have men standing by going, knock the cup out of someone's hand in case they start to put it to their lips, because it's not, and Pastor David does a great job of this every communion Sunday. There's not something mystical or magical that's happening with the cup there and whatnot. But there is a concept of, hey, do we know why we're doing what we're doing? And to take an opportunity with those families, with those kids, to say, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the gospel. Let's talk about communion, and that there's a genuineness to that faith before any kind of ritualistic.
Yeah. What I hear you saying is that you just want parents to recognize that many times what drives children towards something like communion is maybe sometimes just curiosity.
Sure.
What does it taste like?
Yeah. Or approval, right? Group approval.
Sure, absolutely.
Like everybody else is drinking, why can't I have that juice? It looks great.
Absolutely. So. Yeah. Coming back to Summer Adventure becomes really a huge launching pad for a lot of those spiritual experiences where there's curiosity, not just from the children, but the parents as well. At the end of the day, in our final assembly, we see parents kind of up top, in our balcony, and they're observing the big show, the big moment, right, where we have the skit and the music. And I think that's a great curiosity grab for a lot of parents, because they do see, I think, the effort that is made to make this helpful, accessible, fun, and if anything, that's a bridge. I know in the past that we've attempted to maybe have like a parents fellowship area, kind of off the beaten path that maybe has coffee or snacks. Are we going to do anything like that this year, or do we not have the
We don't have it planned. I think when we did that we did that one year. What I'm trying to think what we called it, but it was like a parent
fellowship.
And so we tried to have people up there to interact with them and answer their questions. But
the difficulty with that is like you literally gobble up the entirety of the campus.
It's so much.
That was I think why we haven't had it since then was because we're using every single
Where are we going to
room.
put them? You'd be like the top of the amphitheater, I suppose.
But there is so much natural community that happens when people come to pick up their kids.
They're just
even
sitting
at the
on the
end
patio.
Of the day, on that patio is packed. You know, I remember distinctly last year, the cast from the skit had come out and were signing autographs.
Movie stars.
Which was, I mean, for the kids, huge eyes. You know, wow. One of the guys here in the church has a live parrot, and with the pirate theme, the kids were just over the moon about it. And the parents see that intentionality from our church, and they hung around. Mm-hmm. They weren't just grabbing their kids and jumping in the car. They were sticking around, having discussions and stuff. It was there's a beautiful, natural element to how we exit, I think, every day of Summer Adventure.
Very organic.
Very organic.
Yeah.
Hard pivot here, but let's also just do a little head nod to the gourmet snacks that we have.
Yes, yeah.
Oh my goodness, it's elaborate.
This last year was particularly very good. Yeah,
we treat our volunteers very well.
Let me tell you something.
We spare no expense.
I mean, parents, not that I would encourage this, but if you could steal a volunteer badge just to get access to the snacks,
do not do that.
That would be highly disruptive and illegal from our perspective because you've not been vetted. But I'm just saying, ask a volunteer to bring out some snacks.
There you go. Have your kids put some in their bags.
Yeah, I got that wink from Alan just there going no, Pastor.
Please don't do that.
No, you feel, I know it's your podcast. You feel very cavalier, but you can't say everything you want. Yeah. No. So, okay, Summer Adventure is full steam ahead. Do we want to talk about the theme, or do we not really want to do that?
Maybe.
No, it's out.
It's out there.
If you're reading the Grace Weekly, then
do you
you
want to
saw
talk?
it.
I guess I know, but do you want to talk about it?
Sure.
Summer.
Or would you rather it kind of be like an unveiling?
Well, we've already been talking about it. It is in the Grace Weekly. So it is going to be a board game theme. And the idea is that family game night has taken a turn and has become very real. And our cast and our characters are going
as
to be...
As most horror movies.
Well, there you go. But
the game is now life.
The game is life. They're going to be brought into some familiar family game time scenarios. We're going to emphasize the Lordship of Christ this year in our teaching, and we want to bring that to bear in the midst of the skit. But the skit's going to talk about and display a sense of a family dynamic, a healthy family dynamic, and what that looks like in the midst of the week. So we're excited about it, but board game themes are going to be everywhere. You're going to see giant dice along the lobby and, big boards, Monopoly-type-esque boards. And
that's one of my favorite things
Yeah.
when we're getting ready for Summer Adventure is walking through the lobby to see what that experience is going to be like. And so people start getting excited about
just
that.
a little preview. This is just a sneak peek for anybody who listens to the podcast because we haven't made this part public. But one of the things Janie Walker's working on, every year she does the pastors in some sort of a promo, right? Like last year they were the wanted posters for all the different pirates. The staff of the church were pirates and whatnot. This year,
the Pirates of the Past.
And the Pirates of the Past. This year she's talking about doing a giant Guess Who game with interactive pieces of all of the characters who are staff members at Grace Baptist Church that you can play with.
Of course, I think of the game Clue,
Yeah, of course, yeah. Clues.
Different characters. Mm-hmm. Wow. If families want to register their children for Summer Adventure, how do they do that?
So you go to gracebaptist.org/Summer Adventure and the registration will be there.
That's simple.
Yeah, that's simple.
And you just walk through the steps?
Yeah. Yeah, they need to be going into kindergarten through 6th grade. They're in Summer Adventure in their grade that they will be in the fall.
Starting in the fall.
Okay.
Yeah. So we kind of promote the kids. That's their little jump into the next year.
So as we land this plane, how can we be praying for you and the staff and the volunteers for this effort?
Wow. We're so excited because, like we've been talking about, it's just an incredible event and an incredible opportunity. We just make a great team as far as what we were talking about with our whole staff working together. So just continue to pray for unity in our efforts working together and for the families that are going to come and the impact that we're going to be able to have on their lives and for the many volunteers who will be signing up. We're confident that we'll have the support we need. God always provides what is needed in every regard, and that we'll just be able to stay focused on Him and take the time out of our busy lives, or even just that tendency to check out for the summer, but just hang in there through the end of June to, just focus on what it is that we're going to be teaching and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Alan, any final thoughts?
I just pray for all the moving pieces. There's a lot of people involved, and God is always glorified in the end, which is pretty neat to see how the Lord brings it all together.
Alan, April, Love you guys. We'll be praying for you. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, folks, thanks so much for joining us today. Hopefully you're able to join us next time as we sit down with another special pair of guests. I hate how I sign off on that one. I hate that. I don't know what to say.
Leave that part in.
Sign up for summer adventure.
We just need to do a whole promo. This summer, dice will rain from the sky.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure to subscribe to Magnify Podcast so you never miss an episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with others. Post about it on social media or leave a rating and review. We would love to hear from you, so if you have any questions you'd like to ask in our mailbag, you can email them to magnify@gracebaptist.org, and we will answer them on the show. Thank you so much for streaming.